What's up guys, I'm back. It's been 2 years since I've last posted a video, but today's video is going to be nothing like my other videos. Today's video is going to be a story time. I'm basically going to go through my entire life and tell you everything paranormal that has happened to me and my family members close to me. Now, there are a few videos that I could potentially show to prove my point and whatnot, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because I don't know where the footage is, and also, even if I showed it, people are skeptics and they might not believe it anyway, so it's kind of up to your interpretation of what you believe or not. The first time that anything paranormal happened, I think I was maybe 3rd grade, so it was like early elementary school for the most part. Now, the first thing I remember happening is back whenever I used to live in my older house. My sister, she was sleeping one day and woke up to a figure, let's say, and she described this figure as having blue jeans, some cowboy boots. It was like a white button-up collared shirt and really curly black hair. And that's how she described it. But we didn't find out about this incident until a few months later. Now skip a few months forward, we have gotten a bunch of pictures and stuff from a family member that it was just kind of in their house and whatnot, and it was just like of old family members that have passed and whatnot. And one of these pictures that were taken out of the box just so happened to be taken out of the box by my sister, and she immediately recognized the person that was in the picture. This person was my mother's brother who had passed away because he was drowned maybe like 20 something years ago. Well, it's like 30, upper 30 years ago by now, but it was like 20 something years ago at that time. But she noted, like, she realized exactly who it was as soon as she saw it. And not to mention, we had no pictures of him anywhere in the house, anywhere in anybody else's house, nowhere in our, like, our grandparents' house or nothing. We didn't have any pictures of him. She saw this picture and told my mother at the time. I was standing there. Like, I didn't know what, I was young, so I didn't know what the hell was going on. But she told my mother that she saw this person standing at the edge of her bed after waking up. She pretty much described how this person acted. Exactly how this person acted whenever talking to him. And it was like pinpoint to exactly how he acted in real life before he passed away. It just had this like certain feeling to him. Like how he acted, how he talked, how whatnot, because he was talking to her in this like ghostly form. So she, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, she just pinpointed the exact person, how he talked and whatnot. As I got a little older, I understood it. That was just a crazy, weird thing that happened. But that was like my first encounter of the paranormal. Now fast forward maybe like a year. I was getting ready for school. I got on the bus. My mom was with me, putting me on the bus, and my stepdad was in the house, was making coffee, and made his coffee, and walked to the couch to watch TV. He turned around to see the coffee pot floating. It was floating in midair, and he said it got put on top of the coffee pot. It got put on the actual top of it. But he saw it floating in midair and be placed down. Now, I didn't see this because I was heading to school, but apparently my mom walked into the room and noticed that he was pitch white. Like, my My dad, my stepdad saw that he was just pitch white. Like he saw something that he couldn't even believe. Now those two incidents happened within like a few years apart. Now these next few incidents, years from those first two incidents, all the rest of these events happened in the more recent years of whenever I'm in this current house. Now when we first moved into this house, we didn't notice anything weird, but over time, I in particular started hearing things and seeing things. So the first thing I started to hear was I started to hear footsteps, like clear footsteps in the living room whenever it was like late at night, really late at night. I would always hear clear footsteps. And obviously being young at the time, I'd be scared, so I wouldn't go outside because I would hear them constantly. Like I wouldn't go out of my room, I would just sit there whenever I heard it. Nowadays, I don't really hear the footsteps anymore. I haven't heard that in years, so I think that probably went away. But the next sound that we've heard, we also haven't heard in a while, but we used to hear what kind of sounded like someone sweeping the floor. It was kind of a weird sound. Like it sounded like he was sweeping, but it all almost sounded like some sort of broom or something. But you would hear it kind of like sweeping, and then you would hear it fall and then hit the ground. And it would always be at the very opposite end of the house. So it wouldn't be like right next to you. It'd be all the way in the opposite end. And that happened for a few years, and that has stopped. The third thing that we started hearing at the very beginning, which is still going on to this day, so it kind of like confirms that they're still here, and we obviously know that they're still here because other things that I will be talking about later on still happens to this day. Um, there are knocks that happen. It's the same knock every single time, and it happens at different parts of the house, and it's the exact same knock. It's like a knock that starts fast and then slows, and it's a very weird knock, and it happens not too often, but when it happens, something else always happens close to the time that that also happens. So it usually happens during holidays or like special occasions. You know, it'll just pretty much let us know that they are there. Now for the main few things that have happened over the time of us living here. One day, me and the family had like a get together, quite a few of us. We had a bonfire outside because we live in the middle of the woods, so we have bonfires and chopped trees and stuff like that. We were chilling outside. I was young, so I wasn't obviously drinking, but everybody else was, besides maybe my mom. I think she may have drinking like one or two drinks and then stopped because she had to watch me. We were sitting there, and two of my family members decided, hey, we're gonna take this camera and go to that old haunted, that well not haunted, but that old rickety house that's in the woods, not too far from where our house was, because it was in the middle of the woods. It was our property, but we didn't really explore that area too much because the house, for the most part, was pretty dangerous because it was old, it was rusty, it had a whole bunch of old stuff in it. It was, you know, it was just, you can clearly tell nobody had lived there for hundreds of years. And it's still there to this day. But they decided, we're gonna take this camera, and we're gonna go record us going back there. And at the time that they did it, it was maybe like 10, 11 o'clock at night, so it was pitch black outside. Like, no way you're seeing that. No way you're seeing anything in there. As they're starting to walk towards the house, you can slowly hear our voices disappear in the background. You start to not hear our voices anymore after a little bit. But the closer that they get to this house, they start seeing a light inside of the house. This house does not have electricity. This house is quite a few hundred years old, and nowhere back there should have electricity. But as they got closer to it, they started to notice electricity. And then, as they got even closer, they started to hear voices. And it almost sounded like it was a school type situation. So, it sounded like there was a teacher and a bunch of kids, because they wouldn't talk all together. It would be one person talking that sounded like an adult, and right after they would stop talking, it would sound like a bunch of kids started to talk. And this is one of the situations that were caught on camera, was actually recorded. So we actually heard this after the fact because they didn't hear that going over there. They didn't hear any of that talking or whatnot. They didn't even notice the light because of how drunk they were. And we only found out about that situation because it was a few days later. I believe it was either a few days later or the day of, or that morning or whatever. But we watched back the footage and then discovered all that was on there. And when we discovered it, we were a little bit weirded out. Like, obviously, it's something that we weren't expecting. Another situation that we had is that my grandma used to live at our house for, it was like a year or two. Didn't live here very long, but that's, well, it's pretty long, but it wasn't that long. But she used to live at our house and used to live in one of her spare bedrooms. She used to wake up in the middle of the night quite a lot, because I mean, she's older. So she had to use the bathroom quite a lot. But she would get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom. And quite a few times, she woke up to hear full-on conversations between either two men, two women, or a man and a woman in the living room. And then whenever she would walk out there, there wouldn't be anyone there. And it would be maybe like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning whenever this would happen. My room is right next to the spare bedroom, and I don't sleep with the lights on or anything in my room. So to hear voices coming out of the living room couldn't have been anything in my room because everything is off. Not to mention, this is whenever I was in my teens, like it was my early teens, whenever this happened. And it got to a point that it got so bad that she ended up not wanting to sleep in that room anymore. She didn't exactly tell us what happened in that room to make her not want to sleep in there, but she just straight up just did not want to sleep in there anymore. So I'm assuming something happened that she just didn't like, and she just never told us, but it happened. After that started to happen, we have footage of Xboxes, PlayStations, and like stuff like pretty much electronics turning on and making noises without being plugged in. Specifically, the Xbox would happen quite a bit. And this is not just a regular Xbox. It was the Xbox 360, but it was the Star Wars version of it. So every time that you would turn it on, it would make an R2-D2 sound effect. And it was kind of obvious whenever it turned on, because obviously that's a distinct noise. Nothing else makes it. And for it to not be plugged in and make that noise, and you see the blue light come on whenever it turns on, that's some weird shit. And this happened on multiple occasions. We've had my PlayStation turn on, even though it's unplugged, on multiple occasions. I've seen something moving around with my controller as like sitting beside me, like actually playing the game. And it's not controller drift, because I know what controller drift seems like, what it feels like. I've dealt with controller drift my entire life, and that was no controller drift. Skip past a few years, and for context of this next thing that I'm about to talk about, every year for Christmas, my stepdad sets up a Christmas village. It's like a little, tiny little village with a whole bunch of different houses, buildings, people, whatnot. He sets up a little house, village, and has like a train track and whatnot going through it and everything else. And that was like every year. We stopped doing that recently, but yeah, that was like a common thing. That was like an every year like thing. Well, one year, this was recorded by the way. One year, We were sitting around it after it being set up, and it was the first day that we set it up at that year. And it was late at night, and we were just watching it. We were watching it go around because we upgraded it that year, so we added a bunch of stuff. So we decided, okay, we're gonna record this and then post it onto Facebook. Well, that's what they said. But they're gonna post it onto Facebook to show other people. Well, my stepdad started to record while we were all there. And he records the train going around and round. Everything's normal. Goes around quite a few times. And where it goes around, there's a portion of the village that whenever the train goes around it, you cannot see the train at all. You can see the lights of the train, but you can't see anything of the train whenever it goes to that particular spot. Now, what happened is, the train was going normally, as it should, and the train got to this particular spot where you couldn't see it. As it was turning to go behind that spot, it disappeared, and the conductor part of the train ended up in the back of the train within like a split second. And it came around that corner, and the conductor was in the back. And it was recorded. We got it on camera. And it was like a split second thing that happened. We didn't even see it with our own eyes. It happened so fast. And that was one of the big things that happened. Like, physically happened. Like, we've seen like electronics mess up or whatnot, but that was something serious. That actually happened. And we couldn't believe it. Now, a few years later, my mom was sitting at the computer. And where the computer was situated is we have a glass sliding door that's like on a balcony, pretty much. And the computer is like up against the window, pretty much. So she was sitting on the computer one day, and out of the corner of her eye, on the outside of the sliding door, she saw something move. And she didn't know what it was at first, so she looked a little bit closer and saw a full-blown apparition of a Confederate soldier walking across the yard. Now, she described, I don't remember exactly how she described it, but she described it how it looked, and we ended up looking it up a little bit later, and it was like exact what she described. It was exactly what she described in her eyes. But it had full hands, full head, full body, full legs. It had everything, and she saw exactly what it was. That wasn't recorded because obviously we weren't thinking about it. Obviously, it's not something that we were just gonna record because we're real life human beings. We're not gonna record everything. But that was just something that she experienced that nobody else did. Now, current times, we don't see much of this activity anymore as much as we used to. But there still are a few things that happen, like the knocking. That still goes on. Not as frequent, but that still happens. As far as all the other things, not really. But recently what started happening, the faucets in my house have been turning completely on without us ever touching it. So the way my faucet works is it's one of those like handlebar faucets where you have to pull it towards you to turn it on. It's not like the twisty. It's not like the twisty, but it's like a handlebar. You have to kind of pull it towards you to turn it on. Well, it'll be turned on completely, like full blast, recently. It'll just be turned on, and we don't do that. We didn't do it. And that happened twice so far, as of this. It happened once this week, and once earlier last week, like later last week. And I'm still confused with what happened. But the thing is, after all these years, we think we know exactly who the ghosts are, because there's only so many people that could be doing this, because a lot of it adds up to my mom's brother, because my mom's brother is and was kind of like a prankster. He would do things that would kind of mess with you and whatnot. So we believe that it is him, and we also believe that it is like my stepdad's grandma or nanny. I don't remember exactly what it is, but that was the one who was sweeping, who we heard sweeping, and that's what we think it is. So it would make sense if that were the case, if that was her. As for the old house, what we think it could be is maybe the house was transformed into a school at one point in time, and that was just residual energy of what used to happen there, because we don't know who those kids or who that adult was in there, but more than likely it was just residual energy that just so happened to be there, because we haven't seen it since the lights haven't been on and we haven't heard any voices recently. But as of today, that's all the situations I've been in, and I feel like I will end up seeing more and hearing more. And if I have a lot more experiences with these paranormal events and whatnot, I will make another video later down the line. I hope you guys enjoyed this story, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.